Okay, we'll get started then. So this is our last session of the all-member meeting. So once again, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. I think we've had some really great conversations, some great sessions from a lot of different people. I think it's been a very successful return to face-to-face all-member meetings after 3 long years. So first, there's a note. The evening event begins at 17:30 at 5:30 at a restaurant called Das Lemke. I don't think it has anything to do with Steve Lemke. There's buses that'll to the restaurant from the hotel lobby that will start at 5:10 p.m. from the lobby. So after this, take a few minutes. If you're staying at the hotel, get rid of your bag, and then meet in the lobby about 5:10, and we'll have buses that are running back and forth to the restaurant. Tomorrow we have our face-to-face workshop, which is more informal. That'll be in the room across the hallway. It starts at 9 a.m. We have a hard stop at 3 p.m. So that usually is pretty productive. I think we have about 8 or 10 people signed up in person and a few more in online. But anybody who's here, feel free to come tomorrow from 9 o'clock till 3 o'clock. I think we'll have discussions about some of the topics. There's be another presentation from Jerry and some more discussions about what we're doing with IVI and instrument cluster. So this is a BoF session, so I won't do too much talking. This is my only slide. Basically, for IVI, you've heard a lot of different presentations from Joel about Flutter and what the Toyota plans to add to Flutter, web apps and Chromium embedded framework from Roger and Agalia, and just the general idea that we need to improve developer workflow. So after hearing all those topics, I'll open up the floor to discussion or questions or anything else. Unfortunately, I don't believe we have a handheld microphone, so if you're going to ask a question, speak loudly. Or make a comment about all the great things you've seen today, this week. Yeah, Daniel.
So, a number of talks have mentioned starting to bring Rust into the automotive space. Is there anything that anyone here would like to see the Rust community do to make that easier for you?
So did you hear the question was, is there anything that we would like to see the Rust community do to make bringing Rust into automotive and AGL easier? What do we need in the build system?
Well, I mean, so it's not Rust itself, it's cargo that tends to be the sticking point.
Here, I'll, you know what we'll do? You'll flock. Yeah, like birds of a feather, we'll flock. Here you go.
Turn it off.
Good old noises.
Handheld.
Yeah, so it's not a big deal to actually get a build of something in Yocto with current, like Kirkstone or newer. Usually, based on what I've seen people talk about. But the hard part of the thing is usually things now like SBOM, because usually with cargo, most projects end up downloading a lot of modules, and right now, as I understand it, the SPDX stuff in Yocto doesn't actually work with Rust projects. So that would be one of the things we would have to maybe work with upstream Yocto on to actually try and wire up the SPDX generation to actually work against those types of projects. There are some aspects of that where the current recommended way of doing Rust projects in Yocto, ideally you're running, there's a script that basically generates a source URI entry for every module. It introspects the Rust, like the cargo metadata. But there are Rust projects where basically that's not enough, as I understand it. So the SPOM generation, I believe, works to some degree, but it's not guaranteed to work. So I think this is one of those areas where, it's cargo is not the only offender in this space where it tries to do too much from a build perspective for, projects like, Yocto or, like distro building in general. Like
So integration into offline mode and that kind of thing.
well, that would be the other aspect too, is making sure we can actually do build from a cache, offline. That's in reproducible builds in general is. I know right now the Rust stuff, I think they're confident in upstream master Yocto has gotten to the point that the Rust toolchain stuff, I believe, is now believed to be reproducible, but it's not clear to me if the average Rust project is going to necessarily be reproducible without some effort.
There's certainly still some debug info related problems, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so it's not going to be a slam dunk, I don't think. But I mean, I think we can actually start the process of like something like the data broker in Cuxa writing a recipe and starting to work through the issues. And I think I think things that need to be resolved because we know people are going to want to use it. So it's good, if you're involved and willing to help out, that definitely be good.
Part of the Rust dev tools team.
Yeah, so I mean, in general, the typical things like, it's not Rust, it's, Go and Node, everything where people have built their own package management system, they tend not to integrate well into, distro build because, they're very easy for developer workflow, but they're not so great for stable, reproducible builds necessarily without more effort. So, but I think Rust is, to some degree, is better than Go for this, as far as I understand from the pain that people talk about doing Go builds in Yocto. So, but I think if you're available, we can pick your brain. I think that will be useful.
What about from developer tools?
I guess the question, I'm not super aware of with respect to Yocto SDKs, but I haven't seen anybody say it doesn't work. I believe you should be able to build the tool chain into a Yocto SDK and have it that people can use it. But that's something we would need to investigate as well.
Thinking from the perspective of things like Rust Analyzer and the other ecosystem development tooling, integrating that into an SDK.
Yeah, that's probably a little more interesting. I'd have to go look at Pocky or OE Core and see if some of those things actually have recipes or not, because that's definitely there's stuff in that space that people expect to maybe be available. So, it's the same as in Flutter. There are tooling things in that space and that are Dart tools and things like that. But no, it's good. It's definitely. I think there's a good chance we'll need some assistance, and if we don't have to necessarily go through the OE folks like Richard and other people, and actually have somebody else in the Rust team side, that's very helpful. Cool. All right, thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions, comments, great thoughts? Man, those lights.
It's good if you stand there for a while and get used to it. But if you're
Yeah, exactly. If you're walking back and forth. So I just want to say, if anybody didn't see George's presentation, it sounds like libcamera and camera use cases and bringing them into the system will be easier. Especially, it sounds like it's available now in the Pipewire version we have, but it'll be even better when you get the new version in.
Yeah, functionality is available in the version in Pipewire that already is in. We don't have lib camera though in AGL. That would be something nice to add. We still have the standard video for Linux input though. So yeah, that functionality exists. It is not enabled by default in AGL. So we have, because we were focusing on audio, we turned that part off in the configuration. So next steps there is to re-enable that in the configuration and package lib camera as well. And yeah, take it from there.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to upgrade anyways, right?
Right.
I mean, just because if we do have an issue, it'll be a lot easier support-wise.
So I think George, you said you had somebody working on upgrading the recipes for us?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else have any other wonderful thoughts?